Hello guys, it's me Simo Urahara, and in this video we'll talk about one of the fights that took place in the novel Cfyow onward between Kyoraku and Tokinada. However guys, before we go to this fight, I would like to thank you so much about what you have done regarding my last video. I have never thought that I'm gonna see this kind of support. For the first time in my life, I felt that I'm not alone in this beautiful community. I have been through a lot of hard days of depression, doubt that I'm not good enough, that I'm alone, but even with all these bad feelings, believe it or not, before hours of publishing that video, I told myself that I'm gonna do it not for asking pity or something like that, but I'm gonna do it because I know there are some fans who I think they know me better than the ones who are close to me in reality. They know how I'm trying to do my best. So I was surprised by your donations and the courage words you have written to me, and I will not let your support go for vain. Also, I want to thank Mr. Tomo and Debzi Amran for their beautiful comments. They showed me that I'm not strange, and it just proved to me that you are great guys because you appreciate the work of others, whatever the differences that are between us. So, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for everyone who showed me their support, either by financial support or through your likes and comments. Thank you guys so much. So, as usual with many of the novel's fights, they are not fights in their literal sense, but rather their great purpose is to reveal some facts related to BLEACH's story. And this is exactly what we will see by diving into the history of the relationship between Kyoraku and Tokinada and how this fight took place between them. So to begin with, when we talk about Kyoraku and Tokinada, we're talking here about two characters who have some commonalities, such as they are both noble. Tokinada belongs to the side branch of the Tsunayashiro family, and Shunsui belongs to the Kyoraku family. The only difference is that Tsunayashiro belongs to the 5 great families and the Kyoraku family is below those families in terms of nobility. Thus, we're talking about two young men who were born and raised in one place, which is Serity. And the matter does not stop here. Rather, Tokinada was among the generation of Kyoraku and Ukitake who were trained at the Shinigami Academy, so they also had knowledge of each other. The other thing I can say about these two, the fact that Kyoraku has cunning personality when it comes to fight. And this personality enables him to know the personality of Tokinada, to differentiate his true color. Kyoraku, since the days of the academy, knew the nature of Tokinada. He knew that he was a person who enjoys the suffering of others. And another thing we can add is that the youth of Kyoraku and Tokinada witnessed 2 incidents that changed their lives. Nanao's mother entrusted Kyoraku with the sacred sword Hakyuken, fearing that the curse will pass to her daughter Nanao. And because of this act, she was executed, while Tokinada has killed his wife Kakyo and her colleague. And what we know, and as I said in a previous video, the influence of Tokinada's family saved his life from being charged with penalties. However, the thing didn't go that smoothly for Tokinada, because the appearance of Kyoraku in that event changed everything. Kyoraku is the one who exposed the truth to everyone, that Tokinada is the one who killed his wife and his colleague. It's true he didn't get a heavy punishment for what he did, but at least they sent him to the nest of Magos for some time. So this incident caused Tokinada to have a kind of grudge against Kyoraku, as he was the reason for what happened to him. The important thing is that the days will pass and Quincy War will come and it will end with the defeat of Yuaba. And after 6 months, the events of the novel will begin. And one of these events the novel starts with is the meeting of Tokinada and Kyoraku at the headquarters of the 1st Division. Tokinada came in he is the head of the Tsunayashiro family after he organized the assassination of the senior man of his family, while Kyoraku became the leader of the Gotei 13, and therefore the meeting was so special. And what I should add here is that when Tokinada entered the hall of the 1st Division, Kyoraku thought that he was the only one in the room with Tokinada, but he didn't know that Nanao was also there hearing the conversation. And the reason for Tokinada coming was in order to ask Kyoraku to try to make contact with Yorichi and Byakuya, so that Tokinada would form with them a special meeting for noble families. But Tokinada also took advantage of that occasion of the meeting in order to revive some of the sensitive topics that brought them together in the past, including the murder of Kakyo, so that Tokinada told Kyoraku that he still have a grudge against him for discovering the truth that he was the one who committed that crime. While Kyoraku's response included something actually important. Kyoraku said that before he found out that Aizen was the reason behind Rukia's death sentence, he believed that Tokinada had masterminded this plot. Tokinada replied that he had no reason to do so, and that he had never met Rukia. However, Kyoraku will add another important thing by saying that it wasn't only the Kuchiki who objected Byakuya's marriage to Hisana, the girl of the recon guy, and even when he adopted Rukia, the Tsunayashiro also made objections about what Byakuya had done. And I have talked about this in a previous video, where I said that what Byakuya did left him with a big problems. The Kuchiki did not agree to that marriage, and it seems that even Tsunayashiro was like that. In the end of that conversation between Kyoraku and Tokinada, the latter turned around and said, "By the way, I have no hand in your mother's death, Nanao Ise." And he added that in fact, if he had the power then, he would have made her execution crueler, like what was gonna happen with Rukia, and that he was going to prepare the front seat for Kyoraku so that he could witness the execution. And therefore Tokinada would love to see the face of Kyoraku in that situation, where he would need to choose between Nanao's mother or her daughter, which one he should save. Those poisonous words of Tokinada were not only heard by Kyoraku, but also by Nanao, who, as we said, was hiding. Those words made her feel a kind of confusion. However, a cold Ryatsu suddenly filled the room, a strong Ryatsu that made Tokinada put his hand on his sword, and it was actually Kyoraku's Ryatsu, as he addressed Tokinada with words that may seem joking, but inside it was carrying a terrifying Ryatsu that made Tokinada decide to back off by saying, "I have to go, I don't want to be dragged to the bottom and cut my throat," and as if he was referring here to Kyoraku's Bankai. And so it can be said that this was the first spark on the basis of which they would fight later, especially when Kyoraku spoke to Nanao and told him that Tokinada's Ryatsu was malicious and that he was someone who should not be the leader of the Tsunayashiro clan. After that, several events will occur that we can address in separate videos, which will lead to the emergence of the reality of Tokinada's plan. And as we said in a previous video that I made about the fight between Urahara and Ora, the latter among the things she did for Tokinada is that with the help of Sainosuke they created Hikoni, and Ora also created a palace inside the Valley of Screams, so to be the new place of the new Ryo, who is Hikoni. So when Tokinada will move there, Kyoraku will follow him with the rest of the captains and vice captains, in addition to Yorichi, as well as a group of Arankaras such as Halibel, Nail and Grimijo, as well as some Quincy's like Candice, while Toshiro and Byakuya were not with them as they were on another mission. The important thing is that as soon as Kyoraku and the rest arrived, they saw the enormity of that palace and how it floated in the sky like the royal palace. And Kyoraku sensed Tokinada's Ryatsu and knew that Zaraki would want to fight Tokinada as soon as he saw him. That's why Kyoraku told Zaraki to wait a little bit while he talks with Tokinada. They're not intent to fight an ordinary person, but a person belonging to one of the 4 great noble families, and therefore attacking him without a clear accusation would be considered a kind of rebellion against Serichi and the society. So Kyoraku wanted at the beginning to find out Tokinada's true goal, or let's say he finds a charge through which he can be attacked without falling into the problem of treason. And therefore, in the midst of a long conversations about Tokinada's goals, the conversation ended with Tokinada committing an offense by giving Hikoni, who has a human Konpaku, a Shinigami power. Tokinada tried to reply that you also, the Shinigami, have given your power to Ichigo after he lost his powers. Kyoraku replied that this was a case under a special circumstances. Meanwhile, Kyoraku was downstairs while Tokinada was in one of the balconies talking to them from the top, and his shadow was on the ground, so that Kyoraku quickly got out of the shadow using the Kage Oni technique and tried to hit Tokinada directly using Katen Kyokatsu. But Tokinada blocked that attack, and this is how Koba portrayed the scene in this special sketch. However, Tokinada did not wait long until he called out Hikoni. The latter came immediately and made everyone amazed at the power of his Ryatsu, after which Tokinada told him that he should attack and kill everyone, so that at the time Hikoni will activate the Zanpakuto Ikamokodamoi. While the fight between Kyoraku and Tokinada continues, Tokinada will reconfirm that Hikoni is the right person for the role of Ryo, just like Ichigo Kurosaki or Ginjo. And this is where Kyoraku will tell Tokinada that Tokinada lied when he asked him before about his knowledge of Ginjo, and there where Kyoraku will repeat a certain question. It is true what you told Nanao early? That you had nothing to do with Nanao's mother's death? This question was frankly not normal. because it was the beginning of Kyoraku's activation of one of his Shikai games, which we hadn't seen before, neither in the anime or manga, and it is the game Yubikiri. This new game is based on simple rule. Kyoraku and his opponent are required to answer the questions they ask each other, and anyone who lies in the answer will suffer some kind of injury. For example, in the first false answer, the liar's finger will paralyze. In the second lie, he will feel a crushing fist on his body. By the third lie, he will feel that many needles are cutting him. Therefore, if Tokinada's answer was false, he would be injured. But Tokinada told him the previous answer that he really had no role in this. Kyoraku replied, "I see. Too bad." And so Tokinada automatically understood that Kyoraku had brought him into a new game related to the Pink Promise. And so Tokinada continued to answer the question by adding that he really had no part in issuing the death sentence, but suggested that it was possible that the Hakyuken sword it would be in the possession of her daughter. But Tokinada in the end believed that the sword would be in the possession of Kyoraku himself. And actually, the Tsuneyashiro family was hidden in this direction by investigating with Kyoraku and Nanao. However, the intervention of Ginri Kuchiki made them stop. And this is very important information, showing how Kuchiki's intervention in the person of Ginri Kuchiki saved both Kyoraku and Nanao and not dragged them into serious matters. And after knowing this information for the first time, the game was still in effect, and there Kyoraku would ask Tokinada another question. "Can you remind me of your Zanpakuto's name again?" And here is where Tokinada's features will change. As it is known, Tokinada doesn't have a personal Zanpakuto, but rather the secret family of the Tsuneyashiro, that he named Koten Kyukaku, while the real name of the Zanpakuto is Inrakyoten, and it includes a special release, meaning that Tokinada was originally calling the Zanpakuto by a fake name, like what Yumichika does. Therefore, Tokinada at first tried to avoid the answer, but the law of the game required that. But instead of saying the name only, Tokinada decided to take another step, which is to activate the power of the real Zanpakuto Inrakyoten. As soon as Tokinada started saying the first words of awakening the Zanpakuto, Kyoraku tried immediately approaching him using the Shimpo in order to attack him and prevent him from that. The novel as it describes, Kyoraku didn't have enough time to use any other games, but Kyoraku decided to attack him with a direct attack. However, what Kyoraku thought was the right decision, in fact, was the opposite. And this is what Tokinada really wanted, because it seems that in order for Tokinada to be able to use the full capabilities of Inrakyoten, he has to put his life on the line. And that's what he did. He made himself take that hit from Kyoraku in order to release the full power of the Zanpakuto. Tokinada's launch of Inrakyoten was so special that it emitted a very radiant light that made Kyoraku believe that Inrakyoten controls the light, and made him subject to a temporary blindness, and made Kyoraku's game end. And thus the events took another course. So guys, this event took place between Kyoraku and Tokinada, gave us several new things that we didn't know, such as how some of the nobles were suspecting that Kyoraku was carrying the secret sword of Hakyuken, and how Ginri Kuchiki intervened to stop the investigation of the Tsuneyashiro, which was targeting Kyoraku, as well as the new techniques that we saw of Kyoraku's Shikai, which gave us a new perception of Kyoraku's abilities. So guys, tell me what you think about this fight, tell me your opinion in the comments, and see you in the next video.